Pick up any plastic object near you right now. A pen cap, a TV remote, a water bottle lid. That thing was made in under 30 seconds, injected, cooled, and pushed out of a steel mold before most people finish reading a text message. And the process that made it, injection molding, is probably the most important manufacturing process most people never think about. But here's the part that almost nobody talks about. Before the plastic goes in, the air has to get out. And if it doesn't, you get burn marks, incomplete parts, or hidden weak spots that fail at exactly the wrong moment. The whole science of managing that air is called mold venting, and it sits right at the intersection of physics, tooling engineering, and material science in a way that I find genuinely fascinating. So let me walk you through what's actually happening inside one of these machines, why trapped air is such a real problem, and how mold engineers design around it in ways that are completely invisible in the finished product. When you inject molten thermoplastic into a steel mold, you are filling a sealed cavity at pressures between 5,000 and 30,000 pounds per square inch. The plastic enters through a small gate, usually 1 or 2 entry points, and it races to fill every corner of that cavity in a fraction of a second. The material might be ABS, nylon, polycarbonate, depends on the part, but regardless of material, the cavity isn't empty when injection starts, it's full of air. As the plastic flows in, it pushes all that air ahead of it, into corners, down thin walls, into ribs and structural features. That air has to go somewhere. If you haven't given it a way out, one of 3 things happens, and none of them are good. The first is burn marks. And this is where it gets interesting from a pure physics standpoint, because what you're actually watching is like a diabatic compression at work. When air gets trapped and compressed very rapidly in a confined space, it heats up dramatically. This is the same thermodynamic principle that makes a diesel engine fire without a spark plug. You compress air fast enough, it gets hot enough to ignite diesel fuel without any ignition system at all. In a mold cavity, that same adiabatic compression can push trapped air above 600 degrees Fahrenheit in milliseconds. When the plastic melt front arrives at that pocket, it scorches. You get a brown or black discoloration, usually in a corner or at the very end of a flow path. On a dark part, you might miss it. On a white or light gray part, it looks like someone held a lighter to it. The second problem is the short shot. If the trapped air creates enough back pressure, it physically stops the plastic from filling the mold completely. The part comes out missing a section, a rib tip that rounded off, an edge that didn't form, a wall with a hole in it. In a structural component, that's a safety issue. In a cosmetic part, it's just a reject. Either way, it costs money and time. The third is the weld line. This one is subtle. When 2 flow fronts meet inside the mold, which happens constantly in parts with holes, multiple gates, or complex geometry, trapped air can sit right at that junction. What you end up with is a seam in the plastic that looks fine from the outside, but is significantly weaker than the surrounding material. The part passes visual inspection, ships to a customer, and breaks at exactly that seam under load. So how do mold engineers solve this? The primary answer is venting. And the details here are what I love because they're so counterintuitive in their scale. A vent is a machined groove on the parting line of a mold. The parting line is the seam where the 2 halves of the mold come together. You can see it on almost any plastic part as a faint line running around the perimeter. Engineers machine tiny grooves across this line, typically between 0.0005 and 0.002 inches deep. That's thinner than a human hair, wide enough for air to escape freely, but shallow enough that thermoplastic cannot flow into them. Molten plastic has enough viscosity and surface tension that it won't penetrate a gap below a certain threshold, but air passes right through. It's a mechanical filter that sorts by fluid behavior rather than particle size. A mold engineer designing a new part has to think carefully about where the plastic is going to arrive last. Those locations are where air concentrates. In a rectangular box, air traps in the 4 corners. In a ribbed part, it collects at the rib tips. In a part with a circular through hole, you almost always get a weld line on the far side from the gate, right where two flow fronts converge after traveling around opposite sides of the hole. These used to be educated guesses based on experience. Since the mid-2000s, fill simulation software changed that completely. Autodesk Mold Flow, which is the industry standard tool for this, used by most serious tooling operations, lets engineers run a virtual fill analysis before the mold is ever cut into steel. You watch a color-coded map of the cavity fill in real time, and the software highlights exactly where air traps will form, where weld lines will develop, where burn marks are likely. As of 2026, running a mold flow analysis is essentially standard practice. On any new tooling project of significance, it's caught problems that would have taken 3 or 4 expensive tool trials to find. But parting line vents don't solve everything. Some parts have deep pockets or internal features that are nowhere near the parting line. Air can trap in the middle of a geometry with no direct escape path. This is where ejector pins become something more than just a mechanical function. Every injection molded part needs to be physically pushed out of the mold after it cools, and ejector pins handle that in steel rods that extend through the mold and push the finished part out. But because these pins travel inside precisely drilled holes, there's a small clearance gap between the pin and the hole wall. Mold engineers deliberately design this clearance, sometimes as little as 0.5 of an inch on each side, to function as a vent. Air ahead of the advancing plastic escapes through these gaps before the plastic viscosity seals them off. The part comes out with small circular witness marks where the pins contacted it, which is why most plastic parts have those faint circles on their backside. That's not a flaw, that's the venting system doing its job. For the worst case locations, deep corners, blind pockets, features where even ejector pin clearances aren't enough, some mold builders use porous steel inserts. There's a material made in Japan called porous that looks in machines like solid steel, but is actually full of microscopic interconnected pores throughout its structure, essentially a metal sponge. Air passes through it freely. Thermoplastic cannot penetrate it at all. You machine a pocket in the mold steel, press in a porous insert at the air trap location, and the problem disappears. The downside is cost, and certain materials, particularly those with additives or colorants, can gradually clog the pores, so the inserts need periodic cleaning or replacement. On high precision parts, medical device components, optical lenses, certain automotive safety parts, vacuum-assisted molding takes this a step further. Right before injection begins, a valve opens and a vacuum pump pulls most of the air out of the mold cavity before the plastic even enters. You're injecting into a nearly air-free space, which means you can fill faster, more completely, and with essentially zero risk of burn marks from adiabatic compression. The trade-off is a significantly more complex and expensive mold and a more involved process setup. In medical device manufacturing specifically, where part quality requirements are extremely tight and the cost of a defective component is measured in regulatory consequences rather than just scrap rate, vacuum-assisted molding is worth the investment. It's become more common since around 2022 as tolerances on certain device components have gotten tighter. Here's something I think is worth saying directly because it comes up constantly in actual production environments. A lot of defects that get blamed on wrong process settings, bad material batches, or contamination are actually venting problems in disguise. A process engineer sees burn marks and reduces injection speed. That helps with the burns, but slower injection means the plastic cools more before the mold fills, which causes short shots in thin sections. So they raise the melt temperature to compensate. Now they're thermally degrading the material. They increase pack pressure to push through the fill. Now they're overpacking the cavity and getting warpage. It becomes a spiral, and it often traces all the way back to an inadequate vent that was never addressed. There's a mindset in manufacturing engineering that goes vent first, adjust process second, meaning you exhaust your tooling solutions before you start chasing the problem with machine settings. A part that needs 40 vent locations to run cleanly will never be stable with 15 vents and aggressive process compensation. The physics won't allow it. A complex automotive interior panel might require over 100 individual vent locations across the mold, each one specified, machined, inspected, and sometimes hand-tuned by a toolmaker with a file after the first trial shots come out. The reason none of this is visible to most people is that when it works, it leaves no trace. The vent grooves are on surfaces hidden from view. The ejector pin marks are on the back side of the part. The Portarax inserts are buried in steel. What you're left with is a product that came out of the mold looking perfect in 18 seconds, running 3 shifts a day for years. And inside that mold, there's a grid of grooves thinner than a hair, a set of precisely fitted pins, maybe a small square of Japanese porous metal in a rear corner, all of it designed specifically to move air that weighs almost nothing, so that a thermoplastic component weighing a few ounces can come out exactly right every single time. That's injection molding venting, the branch of manufacturing engineering that nobody talks about, because when it's done correctly, it's completely invisible in the finished product. If you've held a plastic part and noticed a burn mark on the surface, or a section that looks like it didn't quite form right, or a faint line where 2 edges meet, that's a weld line, and now you know what caused it. Drop it in the comments. I genuinely like to know what you found. If you want more on injection molding, tooling design, how material selection changes everything, what wall thickness does to fill behavior, subscribe and I'll keep going. There's a lot more in here than most people expect.